The rain fell in a delicate drizzle, painting the city streets in muted shades of gray and silver. Through the fogged window, I watched droplets race each other, weaving intricate trails as the chill of the afternoon seeped into my bones. It was the kind of day that begged for comfort, the warmth of a stove, the embrace of creamy sauces, and the sharp, welcoming bite of garlic. I'd been staring at my laptop for hours, the cursor blinking on a half-written report, when the thought struck. Tonight, I'd make creamy garlic shrimp pasta. Why not? I hadn't cooked anything indulgent in weeks. The decision was spontaneous, a quiet rebellion against the monotony of my work-from-home life. I reached for my coat, a heavy navy blue trench that smelled faintly of lavender detergent, and wrapped myself in its weight. The grocery store felt like a mission, an adventure beyond my four walls. The drizzle had softened to a mist by the time I stepped outside, the damp air curling against my skin. The pavement shimmered under the dim light of the overcast sky, and I pulled my hood tighter, savoring the rhythmic patter of my boots against the wet ground. Why didn't I do this more often? Just step outside for no other reason than to breathe. As I turned the corner toward the neighborhood market, I nearly collided with Mr. Prescott, my upstairs neighbor. He was in his late 30s, tall, with kind eyes that always seemed to carry a flicker of unspoken curiosity. He was holding a bag of groceries, the edge of a baguette peeking out. "Oh, sorry," I said, stepping back quickly. My voice sounded higher than I intended. "No harm done," he replied, his voice warm, like honey stirred into tea. He glanced at me, his eyes lingering just a moment too long. "Heading out for groceries?" I nodded, feeling a faint flush creep up my neck. "I'm making shrimp pasta tonight. Thought I'd pick up a few things." "Sounds delicious," he said, his smile softening the edges of his otherwise rugged face. "You know, there's a great deal on fresh shrimp today. Just got some myself. You should check it out." "Thanks. I'll do that," I replied, adjusting the strap of my bag. He hesitated for a moment, as if weighing whether to say more, but instead nodded and stepped aside. "Have a good evening," he said, his tone almost wistful. I glanced back briefly, wondering if I'd imagined the wistfulness. Was there something there? Shaking the thought away, I pressed on, the encounter leaving a strange flutter in its wake. The automatic doors parted with a soft hiss, releasing a wave of warm air mingled with the scent of citrus cleaner and freshly baked bread. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, casting a sterile glow over the aisles. I reached for a small basket, its handle cool against my palm, and began weaving through the rows, ticking items off my mental list: garlic, heavy cream, parsley, lemon, pasta, and shrimp. At the seafood counter, I paused, scanning the glistening array of fish and shellfish laid out like jewels. The shrimp caught my eye, their translucent shells faintly pink, a promise of tender sweetness once cooked. As I waited for the attendant, I noticed the cashier watching me from across the store. She was a young woman, perhaps in her early 20s, with a sharp bob and a smattering of freckles across her nose. Her name tag read, Amy. When I reached the checkout line, Amy greeted me with a smile that was equal parts friendly and mischievous. "Got big plans for dinner?" she asked, scanning the shrimp and then the box of linguine. "Just something simple," I replied, feeling a touch self-conscious under her knowing gaze. "Simple, huh?" she teased, holding up the garlic. "Something tells me this is going to be more than just simple. You're putting love into it." I laughed softly, shaking my head. "Just cooking for myself. Love has nothing to do with it." Amy's brow arched slightly, her freckled face alight with amusement. "Sometimes, cooking for yourself is the best kind of love. Enjoy your pasta." Her words stayed with me as I stepped back out into the misty evening, my bag of ingredients in tow. By the time I reached my apartment, the rain had picked up again, a steady rhythm that drummed against the window as I unpacked my groceries. The kitchen, with its soft under-cabinet lights and faint smell of yesterday's coffee, felt like a sanctuary. I placed the shrimp on a plate, their cool, firm texture reminding me of the ocean, and began to prep. The garlic cloves were smooth and fragrant, their papery skins crinkling under my fingers as I peeled them. Why does garlic smell so good even before it cooks? I muttered to myself. I minced them finely, the sharp aroma blooming in the air, mingling with the earthy freshness of chopped parsley. The skillet hissed as I added butter, its golden pools bubbling before the garlic hit, releasing a symphony of savory notes that filled the room. Next came the shrimp, their pink hue deepening as they curled in the heat, a delicate transformation that spoke of tenderness. I deglazed the pan with a splash of white wine, the liquid sizzling and releasing a burst of brightness that made my mouth water. The heavy cream followed, swirling into the mix like a silken ribbon, turning the sauce into a luscious ivory dream. I boiled the linguine to a perfect al dente, its tender strands catching the creamy sauce as I tossed them together. The final touch was a sprinkle of parsley and a squeeze of fresh lemon, the citrus cutting through the richness with a zesty clarity. I plated the pasta carefully, twirling the strands into a delicate mound, the shrimp nestled on top like treasures. Sitting down at the table, I unfolded a napkin and placed it in my lap, then picked up a fork and knife. The first bite was sublime. The linguine was silky and rich, the sauce clinging to each strand with perfect cohesion. The garlic was bold yet comforting, the shrimp sweet and briny, their texture firm but yielding to the bite. The faint hint of lemon lingered on my tongue, balancing the creamy decadence with a bright tang. The room was quiet except for the soft clink of utensils against the plate. The steam rising from the dish carried its aroma, warm and inviting, and I paused between bites just to inhale it. Why don't I do this more often? I mused aloud, savoring the moment. After finishing, I carried the plate to the sink, running warm water over it as I rinsed away the remnants of sauce. The kitchen felt serene, the lingering scent of garlic and butter wrapping around me like a comforting embrace. I poured myself a glass of chilled white wine, the crispness a perfect counterpoint to the meal, and leaned against the counter, letting the calm of the evening settle over me. With the dishes done and the wine glass in hand, I returned to my desk, the glow of the laptop screen waiting. The rain continued its steady rhythm outside, a soothing backdrop as I sat down. Somehow the report didn't feel so daunting anymore. Cooking had a way of reminding me that even the smallest acts could turn an ordinary day into something extraordinary.